What's good, YouTube? This is the Only Big Green Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm back again with another deck profile. This deck profile right here is to follow up with my Yu-Gi deck, aka May 2002 format. Or you could also know this as Legend Beatdown. And this deck is the Kaiba variant. And of course, this is my updated version. On my old versions, I was wrong. I had Heavy Storm, and that card didn't come out until a month later after this format. So I'm just going through and re-uploading my decks pretty much again, but with the correct cards this time. And again, this is the Blue Eyes variant, aka Kaiba variant. So let's get right on into this deck profile. First off, you play the 3 Blue Eyes for obvious reasons. It's the main card of the deck, much like the Summon Skull is your big boss monster for the Yugi, or, you know, the Summon Skull part of the deck. So you definitely have to play 3 of this guy. With the Yugi deck, you can get away with only playing 2 or 1 Summon Skull. With this deck, you can't really get away with playing 3 Blue Eyes, because the deck's main goal is to just straight up OTK your opponent with the Blue Eyes, or push for game that sets up next turn for you to kill them. Which is, this deck, that's like both the pros and the cons of this deck. A pro for this deck is it can straight up win in 1 turn, depending on if your opponent doesn't have a swords, or depending on what's set on their side of the field, monster-wise, you can definitely win the turn that this deck goes off. The only, the big con of this deck, though, is it does have a tendency to brick, which sucks. And then Curse of Dragon, it's just to round off the dragons. It's a good 1 tribute monster. This card's really good with Change of Heart as well. And then next up we have the 3 Lord of D. Of course, you're going to want to play at least 2 to 3 of this guy as well. I'm playing 3 in my build for the obvious reasons of I want to try and spam the board with dragons as much as possible. Again, this card can sometimes be a bit bricky as well. Sometimes if you're just in a hard situation, you're just forced to set that card like this. Then again, if it's late game, look at your opponent's graveyard. If you've noticed a lot of their removal is gone, like their Walls of Revealing Light, and like their Maneater Bugs are all gone, and their Lajins are all gone, you can potentially summon this guy and just push for game, but that's only if it's late game. I would recommend doing that. Next up, speaking of the card I was talking about, the Lajin. This is the big beater of the deck, 18k. Back then, this was the strongest monster that you could just summon without a tribute. And, of course, you want to play it, because back then, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of like how it was in the anime, where it's just all about who has the most power. So, of course, you're going to want to play that. And then to round off on the beaters, I play the 1 Neo and the 1 Battle Ox. You could go 2 Battle Ox, you could go 2 Neo. It doesn't really matter. Just do whatever you want to do. I just like running 1 of each of them. Next up, for the stall purpose and for removal, Wall of Illusion. This card is much better in the mirror match than what it is in the Summon Skull matchup, in my opinion, just because it's really good at stopping Blue Eyes, because whenever they have Lord of D and they flute you and they swing into this thing with the Blue Eyes, this thing's just going to bounce the Blue Eyes back to hand. And in the Summon Skull matchup, you can just tribute 1 monster, where with Blue Eyes you have to tribute 2 monsters, or somehow wait until you can get the flute again. So I feel like this card is definitely better in the mirror match, but it's also good up against matchups in general at this time. Next up, the 3 Maneater Bug. This is another removal, but this I feel is a better removal because it completely gets rid of the card. It blows up a monster, but in some cases Wall can be better. And then to finish off the monsters and to finish off the flip effects as well, the Trap Master. Trap Master is your only way of removing traps in this format, which sucks a lot, considering that your opponent's going to be sitting on trap holes and there's really nothing you can do about it until you see this guy. There's also a good, there's the occasion where if you flip him up, the downside is you could declare a back row, and if it is a spell, I mean, the downside, the good side about that is you do get to see information, so once you get your D spell, you can immediately remove that spell back there. So I guess that's the good thing if you do miss with this card's effect. Onto the spell cards, the Almighty Power 5, of course, you want to play this in any May 2002 deck. The Change of Heart to take control of the opponent's monster. Monster Reborn, of course, reborn a monster from the grave. Pot of Greed, we don't know what this card does. Dark Hole, destroy all monsters on the field. And then Raigeki, destroy all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. So, the most powerful 5 spells at the time. And they're all at 1. So, that's the reason why I'm not playing multiple of them. Flute of Summoning Dragon. The only reason why I'm not running 3 is this card, unlike like with the Lord of D, at least the Lord of D, when you brick with it, you can set it as a body, or you could even push with it. With this card, it's just a straight up brick when you draw it. So that's pretty much my main reason of playing this card at 2. You can play this card at 3 if you like. As a matter of fact, the next card that I'm going to show, Card Destruction. If you're playing Card Destruction at 2, which it was at 2 at the time, you could probably play this card at 3. But considering I'm only playing 1 Card Destruction, I'm only playing 2 of this. But you could play this card at 3 if you're running 2 of that. And the main reason why Card Destruction is running this deck is it's better in this deck than the Summon Skull deck because this deck bricks way more than the Summon Skull variant does. So this card can unbrick your hands. So it's more than just like a situational card. It can be more than like just that. The 1D spell. Again, this deck, there's a lot of stuff, like I'm running the Dragon Engine, so I can't afford to put like 2 or 3 D spells, so it sucks that I can only play 1, but if you guys can find a way to run 2 or 3 in your Blue Eyes build, feel free. This card is the only way of removing spells in the format, so definitely play more of this if you can figure out a way to play more. Next up, the 2 Swords. This card was only at 2, or else you'd be playing 3. Swords Revealing Light was really broken in this format. Especially, I know I've said this so much this video. It's especially good in this deck compared to any other deck in this format. Just because when you do end up bricking, or if things aren't going your way, this card can really help you out in situations. Especially if you know your opponent has used up 1 or 2 D spells already. You know this card's most likely going to stick for all 3 turns and you're good to go. Next up, I think this might be, yeah, these are the last of my spells. The 3 Fissure. It's just a good removal. It's a good way of getting rid of your wall, or not your wall, your opponent's walls. If you're playing the mirror match and they're stuck on a Lord of D, it's a good way of just getting rid of the Lord of D to where you can target the Blue Eyes with your Maneater Bugs and stuff like that. And of course, like, if all their walls are gone, good way of getting rid of their Logians if they're setting on a Logian and a set monster. Onto the trap cards. 3 Waboku. This is just a standard trap card of this format. It stalls you, and then it can also come in situations to where, like if you guys saw my Yugi video or the, Summon Skull video, it's a good way of running into their, if you have a 17 and they have a 17, it's a good way of swinging into their 17, activating Waboku, their 17 dies, and you leave with yours. And, like, you can do other stuff like that. Like, if you're playing, in this version, I'm not playing Reinforcements, but you can get away with, like, this and Reinforcements and doing some pretty crazy, nutsy combos there with this card. And for the last of the traps, the 3 Trap Holes, because, of course, I was playing Reinforcements, but I had to take it out, make room for some other stuff. But if you can figure out room to play Reinforcements, definitely play it. But the 3 Trap Hole, whenever your opponent summons a monster with 1,000 or more attack, it's bye-bye. So this card is, of course, the best trap, in my opinion, the best trap card of this format. It might not be, like, the most skillful to use. I feel like the most skillful trap card of this format would be Waboku or Reinforcements, but it's definitely the best trap card of the format. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys like this video. I want to get more decks of this format done. If you guys are wondering, the legal sets are Legend of Blue Eyes, and then Structure Deck Yugi, Structure Deck Kaiba. That's the legal sets of this format. And then the ban list pretty much go. I'll probably post the ban list in the comments below, but if I don't post the ban list below, the ban list is pretty much all pieces of Exodia is at 1, the Power 5 is at 1, Swords of Revealing Light is at 2, and then Card Destruction is at 2. So the ban list it's really not even a ban list, it's a limited and semi-limited list at this time. Nothing was banned. I feel like if there was any card that should be banned in this format, I feel like the best card to hit would probably be Raigeki, because that card is super killer. That card's a blowout in this format. The only times that I have really lost in this format is when my opponent has Raigeki'd me. That card's a blow. If there's any card that they should have banned at this time, it should have been Raigeki, but it was at 1 in this format. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I definitely want to try and get more of these decks done in the future to upload. There's a mill deck that I want to. It's not really mill. It's stall mill. You just play a bunch of 2000 defensive beefy guys, and then there's a burn deck that I want to play where you play like Ukazi and the Hinotama, or however you say that card's name. A bunch of burn sparrows, and then again the basis of just sitting on beefy defenders. So I definitely want to get those done. Thanks you guys for watching and supporting me. This has been the Only Big Green Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm signing out.